connecting to the internet.
Internet.
Networking software.
World Wide Web thing on a computer today.
Computer.
NetSurfer Pro.
Good evening. So I have called this meeting here, of course, of all the major players in NetSurfer Pro, a whirlwind ride through the World Wide Web.
Which is me, your host, Matt.
And me, your co-host, Galen. And I just, I think we need to have a talk about branding, basically.
Okay. I don't have any, fire ready. I don't have any sort of steel handy, but I can call it my blacksmith friend.
Oh, you silly goose. I'm not talking that kind of branding.
Okay, good. Because I think that's illegal?
Yeah, we would have to brand the listeners, and that's just... I mean, I don't think you can do that as an audio format. No, we're talking about synergistic kind of branding and other buzzword kind of branding.
You know, you're not supposed to call them buzzwords.
No. You see, buzzword is actually a cool new buzzword.
Oh, okay.
I have a business degree, of course. You wouldn't know this. But buzzword is sort of its new own way of saying that something is hip and with it.
It's like the bee's knees.
Exactly. Now, we have a podcast, of course, as you know, I know it. The listeners probably know it. As a podcast, we were recently bought by, we were bought for $1 gazillion.
Mm-hmm.
And, here's the thing, the metrics just aren't in. See, you know what people want from podcasts? They want two things. They want Joe Rogan, and we can't get him. He won't return our calls, because we haven't made any, because we don't want Joe Rogan on this podcast. And they want true crime. Now, there's some problems with true crime, of course. There's questions about ethics and exploitation. So
yeah, and there's only so many cool crimes being committed per day.
Exactly. But what if you didn't need the crimes to be true? I'm just gonna flip to my next slide on the PowerPoint. This is more for a visual flair. This would be really funny, actually. It's a really funny image. But unfortunately, this is an audio program. However, I would like to introduce you, my host Matthew, to the world.
That is a pretty funny image. It's like a little stock footage of a criminal, but you've taken the Shutterstock watermark and actually copy and pasted it 20 more times over the image, so it looks like it's just covered in text.
Yep,
it's like a word cloud wall.
Yep, this watermark is more like a water feature at this point. And I would like to introduce you to the world of false crimes. That's right, every week we come up with new cool crimes. It is 100% more ethical than true crime. It is 100% more false than true crime. And it basically means that we can make up whatever crimes we want. Now, I've got a list here, of course. Just, some ideas that we can spitball, while we're thinking about this. So I'm going to go to the next slide. All right. So first off, we have a slam poet gets slammed.
Okay, sure.
I'm thinking here that the crime is that a slam poet came out and good for him. Mm-hmm. But he also went to do some slam poetry. And a big anvil slammed onto him.
Ooh, yeah, okay. Maybe they were doing construction on the floor above or something.
Yeah. Ooh. You know what? Here's the thing. They were doing construction on the floor above, but you know what was below?
What?
More construction.
Ah, as above, so below, so they say.
Exactly. I've got a new slide here. If you could go ahead and read that one out for me.
Okay, this one says, a trapeze artist falls for a trap.
Yep. That was a really cool idea I'd had, was that a trapeze artist is usually on a big line, really, really long line. But what if the trapeze artist, he got onto the line and it turned out that the line was actually really short.
Oh yeah. Then they're like, well, that was it. I didn't do anything cool. People aren't going to clap for me.
Exactly.
Yeah, I like that. That's a good one. And
of course, we've got the last one here. I think this is the one that's really for all of the money. And it is the two podcast hosts that robbed the White House.
Didn't somebody do this one before?
Oh God, did they?
Did we do this one before?
Oh, Man, you know what? I think we might have done this one before.
Okay, that's right. That's right.
Next time we'll have to go to a red house, I guess. We might have to workshop it. You know what? Maybe. Okay, you know what? We should table this for now.
Mm-hmm.
These are some really cool false crimes, of course.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, we'll just have to put this on the table for now, and I guess we'll just do a normal episode over you know, some topic we've talked about. And, you know, really come back to this. I think this could, you know, increase our viewership to at least 3.
That's good. That's good. We could really use that. That's like a 300% increase.
Yeah.
That's numbers.
Those are some numbers. I went to numbers school myself, and so I also recognize numbers.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so I guess we'll just do a normal episode this time, though. So you know, look out for that feature in the future. But for right now, why don't we get into some topics?
Okay. So yeah, this is Net Surfer Pro, as you can already surmise. And first off, we have a Trailer Blazes. Trailer Blazes!
Yeehaw!
Yeah, so they just released a second Mario movie trailer right under our noses.
Yeah, just like a mustache right under our nose.
Yeah, exactly. We get voice acting in this one. It's funny, they started off with, like, you know, an interview with Anya Taylor-Joy, and, you know, she's featured prominently in the trailer, but then they bring up Seth Rogen, and he's doing his little testimonial, but you barely even hear him.
Yeah.
Like, they have Donkey Kong and Cranky Kong and a hidden Funky Kong and Tiny Kong and maybe even Chunky Kong, but you don't hear Seth Rogen.
Yeah, I think he maybe grunts a bit as Donkey Kong, but, like, we don't get Donkey Kong's voicing Seth Rogen.
Yeah. You do, though, now hear Luigi much better. Charlie Day playing Luigi. I think it's fine. It's pretty much what I expected.
Yep. It's pretty close to his normal voice, but Charlie Day's Luigi was one of the ones that everybody was a little excited about, and honestly, I think it's a pretty good voice for him.
Mm-hmm.
We got more Chris Pratt Mario. I'm going to say something slightly controversial and say, yeah, all right.
Yeah.
It's I'm not expecting the world, but he had a pretty decent wahoo at the end.
Yeah, clearly he's going to come into the role of Mario as the story progresses.
Yeah.
He's going from Mario to Mario, the savior of the Mushroom Kingdom. And only one of those goes, Yahoo! Oh-ha! Yahoo!
And there he goes, off into the pale white yonder.
Yep. There was bits including like Smash Bros. In Mario Kart. There is a Rainbow Road. That's pretty fun. I hope there's a Mario Party reference. Maybe there's like a Bank Koopa who steals money.
Yeah, that would be very fun.
Or maybe there's just a die block. I don't know. Bring back Tumble.
Honestly, the wide shots. Also, Bowser's still perfectly, like, Jack Black Bowser, still super hype. We get a little bit more of him. He's fun. Donkey Kong's design, we had a bit of a feature that was like, here's what Donkey Kong looks like. I kind of like it. It's a weird half measure between, like, his old design, like his literal, like, 80s design, and his modern design. And I think that's honestly kind of cute.
Yeah.
We get a number of wide shots.
He looks like the guy that played Benvolio in Romeo plus Juliet.
Oh, you mean Romeo and Juliet, the 2002 movie, or no, the 1996 movie?
Yeah.
Starring Leonardo DiCaprio?
Yep.
Of course.
That one. Their guns are swords.
Their guns are swords. Bring me my long sword. Oh.
So we see, we see like the Yoshis. There's a whole bunch of Yoshis doing the thing from the Melee intro cutscene. But I also have to bring up, there is a little world map.
Yes.
That Peach uses to show like the oncoming front of war. And we see Yoshi's Island. It looks like Yoshi's Island from Yoshi's Island. We see Kong Island, which is really cool. It has, you know, the big monkey head. Inca Dinka is the name of that monkey deity.
Interesting.
Fun fact. And then we do see what looks like Sarasa Land off to the side. Which, you know, fingers crossed that means we get a Daisy. Yes. Now, Peach does join the war front, which is very good.
Yes.
It is more in tune with her current character of being a strong leader who is capable enough by herself. She also rides a motorcycle, which means she has better acceleration and she can wheelie to maintain her top speed. That is optimal.
Well, we don't know that this is Mario Kart Wii rules, actually.
True. Now, she does have a speech where she talks about, like, there are so many galaxies in this universe, and they're all counting on you. I wonder if that's like a sequel hook. I hope that means that Rosalina appears down the line.
Yep, we would love to see Illumination animated Rosalina.
Mm-hmm.
It would probably be the second best animated Rosalina that any of us have ever seen.
Nice. Here's Dreamcasting for Daisy. I already have off the bat.
Oh, hit me.
Kristen Shaw.
Kristen Shaw.
Mabel. Which Belcher is that?
Tina Belcher? Or no, not Tina.
Louise?
Louise, yeah.
Yeah.
I think yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my god, yes.
It fits, right?
That's so good.
Mm-hmm. I don't know who I would want to voice Rosalina, though, is the thing.
Dreamcasting Kristen Stewart.
Kristen Stewart, Kristen Shaw, Kristen Bell.
Drake Bell. Oh no.
Kirsten Dunst.
Also, I do have to say, Anya Taylor-Joy as Peach is honestly like amazing.
Yeah,
I'm really excited for Anya Taylor Peach. I also so Illumination has a long and storied history, and most of that story is kind of eh. But one thing that they know how to do, because it made them all their goddamn money, is animate a bunch of little guys.
Yeah.
And I'm actually, like, the wide shots that we get of, like, all of the little guys, the various bros and the shy guys and such, like, are actually really good. There's a lot of, like, fun little interplay between all the dudes, and so I'm really excited for that as well.
Yeah, they even had Sledge Bros. Shout out to my Sledge Bro fans in the chat. The only thing I didn't see was Charge and Chucks, which are extremely powerful, capable of turning air into stone.
Well, they gotta charge.
True.
I'm like anyone else. I'm probably going to have to see this as soon as it comes out. I'm a little more excited now, I think. And it's Keegan-Michael Key's Chode, right?
As Chode?
As Chode. Oh no,
Mario. You want to see what's under my hat?
Oh no. But Toad is Keegan-Michael Key.
Yes.
And he's still very good.
And Zendaya is Michi.
And LeBron James is Kwame.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's the Trailer Blazes. We did see a movie in theaters this week. I saw that movie twice. You saw it once.
I've seen it once.
We saw Glass Onion, the sequel to today's topic. We're not going to bring it up.
Yeah.
Just know that the entire movie is an Among Us reference. Okay, so for today, we are talking about Knives Out, the 2019 mystery movie produced and directed by Rian starring a whole bunch of people.
Yes. So
the main hits include Daniel Craig, Ana de Armas. I really want to bring up Michael Shannon, who was credited as being like one of the funniest actors on set and responsible for a lot of the like improv bits.
Nice.
Don Johnson, great actor, great performance.
Lakeith Stanfield is a pretty good performance as Lieutenant Elliot.
Christopher Plummer is great in this. Chris Evans is here as an asshole, which we'll get to in a bit. I just think it's great that like Chris Evans, really blew up by playing the most straight edge guy you can be, and now in this he's just an asshole. Like it's so good.
Yeah. Daniel Craig, I think, is the literal breakout, just in the sense that like.
Okay, he was a big actor before this.
Yes,
but a breakout.
He's not as a breakout, but his character, I think, is a breakout in the sense that I think a lot of people fell in love specifically with his character because he is Daniel Craig doing like a deep Southern accent, a gentleman's accent.
Yeah,
and like
Your
it
Honor.
It's so his fucking Atticus Finch is so good.
Does Atticus Finch do the Southern accent?
No. Unfortunately, that doesn't actually track. But like,
Then why do you keep... That's like the third time I've heard you make that comparison.
yes, but that's the only Southern lawman I can think of.
The lawyer from Futurama. The chicken lawyer from Futurama.
Well, unfortunately, I haven't seen Futurama.
The Fact Corner.
Okay, so Knives Out is a mystery. It's a murder mystery surrounding the death of Harlan Thrombey, a successful mystery author who has made a ton of money off his books. He has a huge running mystery like series.
Christopher Plummer plays Harlan Thrombey, by the way.
And he is found dead in his study one morning by Fran the housekeeper.
Yes, it is seemingly originally ruled as a self-death, self-inflicted death. However, among the other bits of the investigation, Benoit Blanc, the famous detective, is seemingly anonymously contacted to be put on the case to solve the mystery of his death.
Yes. So the movie opens in the first act with sort of each member of the family getting interviewed by the cops, doing their own sort of interrogation, getting their statements, their testimonies, their accounts of what happened the night prior. And I really want to bring up a few things here. One is that, so the staging of these shots is phenomenal. That through most of it, so here's something that's really important, is that in this and the sequel, Rian Johnson loves his set design, and like there's a lot of very intentionally placed bits on the set.
Yes.
It obviously wasn't all him. Like, for example, a lot of the landscaping set decisions were done by other crew members. But I want to bring up a few things. In this case, during the interrogations, they're in this sort of kind of hall. Not a hall. It's like just a big room.
Like, a parlor.
Yeah, like a parlor. There is a... this room appears frequently throughout the movie. It's very important. There's a painting of like a trunk or a chest with clothes in it that's always in view. Like a treasure chest. Throughout this, Benoit Blanc starts unfocused in the background, and he only becomes focused later on when characters bring attention to him. Before that, you can really only see the two state troopers whenever the camera is pointing towards them. However, Benoit Blanc presses a key on a piano. Apparently, that is specifically a signal that Blanc sends to for the detectives to ask the different people about when they arrived at the party. So that's just kind of a fun pattern there.
Yeah. The staging, by the way, if I remember this scene correctly, is that the hot seat for everyone is a very specifically designed, like, it is a chair, and behind it is this massive menagerie of knives pointed directly at the hot seat.
Well,
right?
Not necessarily. So for most of the interrogations, the chair is to the side of that knife circle. The knife circle is not part of the chair itself. It's like a hanging, standing sort of like art piece with a bunch of different knives on it, as you said. However, so it goes through the different characters, and in sort of like a Rashomon style, they each give their testimonies. The testimonies intertwine. They tell similar events, though sometimes they picture things differently. One of the running bits is that all of them, like, remember themselves being next to Harlan when they present him his birthday cake.
Yeah.
Which is really good. So this kind of repeats itself. You get an idea of who all the characters are, what their ties to Harlan are. There is Walt and Donna, who, Walt manages Harlan's, like, publishing business. There are Linda and Richard, and, I believe for this one, it was that, I don't even remember if Linda really has, like, a financial tie to Harlan, or if it's purely a familial one.
I seem to remember that she does have some kind of financial tie because her husband is directly connected to his business in some way.
Right. And the other big thing is that, as we learn later on, that Richard is cheating on Linda, and Harlan knows, and has threatened to tell Linda.
Yeah, he knows and is threatening to tell Linda, and Linda, being a like savvy businessman, has written like an airtight prenup, and so that's sort of his character motivation.
Yeah. Additionally, Linda makes a point early on about how you had to have like a game when communicating with Harlan. They had to have like some sort of code or secret riddle, which is implied pretty early on. And then finally, there is Joni, who was married to one of Harlan's children who died later on. And Joni is like a multi-level marketing health.
She's
guru?
like a wine mom, like your stereotypical wine mom.
Yeah, there's a deleted scene that reveals this, that her multi-level marketing company has actually gone out of business. It's bankrupt. And she is pretty much relying on Harlan to send her daughter Meg to college.
Yes.
Now, Meg is really the only character who is friendly at first and like actually invested in the life of Marta.
Yes.
Marta is the personal nurse of Harlan and shown to be pretty much one of Harlan's only friends. She is the last person to show up and be interviewed. She cannot tell a lie.
And, there is a very specific character bit, which is that when we say she cannot tell a lie, when she attempts to tell a lie, she vomits.
Yes.
Like, she projectile vomits.
Vomit now.
Which they make a literal gag of, where, like, they ask her to tell a lie, I think. And she actively vomits, and Benoit Blanc is like, "Oh my god, I'm so sorry. I thought this was like metaphorical, not literal."
Yeah.
But two, I believe the reason that I was confused is that I think when she shows up, she is the one that is sitting in the chair with every single knife directly pointed at her.
Exactly.
Quick diversion. Rian Johnson is most famous on the internet for making that one Star Wars movie. Never seen that movie. I hear a lot of things about it. I don't give a shit about it. Rian Johnson, in my opinion, based on having only seen these two movies, I think, of his, is so good at staging and so good at like direction and like just controlling the camera, drawing your eyes. He's at the very least very in tune with it. Yeah. And again, nuance, it isn't literally just him, but like, as a director, he adds a whole lot to the scene.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a lot of details like that in the script. You can look up the Knives Out script online and just read it.
Nice.
It's also really fun to see what lines were written in ahead of time and what lines were improv. A big deal that Rian Johnson has said a lot in interviews is that Michael Shannon, who plays Walt, did a lot of improv moments that were just really funny and had to be kept. So after the testimonies are all sent out, or during it at some point, you get an idea of Marta's family life, that her mother is an illegal immigrant, and that without being able to work, they would basically be deported.
Yep. There's
a funny bit where Marta's sister is like listening to a crime drama at home, and then Marta's mom is like, "Come on, you're being insensitive. Her friend was murdered." Really loud.
Yeah.
And then later on, when Marta comes home after the interrogation, her mother's watching Murder, She Wrote or something like that.
Yeah.
Like, wow, cool. So Marta gets to know Benoit Blanc. We learn about Benoit Blanc's presence. The family is arguing. There is a great bit where they're having dinner, and so for one thing, all the family is trying to show or act like they treat Marta really well. There's a bit where like Richard is like, "Oh, we treat her like family," and he's shown to be like calling her over, all friendly like, and Marta walks over. It's later revealed that was Richard trying to settle an argument about immigrants.
Yeah.
He was like, "Well, Marta, your family came here legally. You did it correctly." And the Thromby family are horrible people.
Yes.
It is said that, so there's one character in specific that we didn't mention, Jacob, because he's not really interrogated, but he is literally called like an alt-right Nazi dipshit.
Yeah, he is like an alt-right like influencer.
Gamergator.
Yeah, he's like 13, or he's supposed to be like a teenager in this movie.
Yeah.
That's the other thing I want to say is that because of various things that happened with that Star Wars movie, I feel like Rian Johnson, really hates the sort of like alt-right shithead movement, and B, also got really in tune with how it actively works.
Yes, he has said that online, and that's the point I was going to make, that Jacob's character especially was based off the vitriol he got after making that Star Wars movie.
It's young Ben Shapiro.
Yeah.
It's the young Sheldon of Ben Shapiro.
He do kind of look like young Sheldon.
You really do. But I just, again, last little bit, I just want to say, like, it's so good because it's not just a like simple dunk. It's not just look at this shithead. It's really accurate too. Like it's a skewer that's like actively like really, really funny because of how perfectly in tune it is.
Yeah, the whole family is like that. Like all of them give a different country for Marta's like origin, her place of birth, her nationality, her ethnicity. Some people say Ecuador, some people say like Colombia, some people say Mexico, Argentina, and nobody actually gets it correct. And I don't even know if it's said by Marta or her family.
Yeah.
But yeah, none of them really care about that. And so, they're like, okay, we'll take care of you. Don't worry about it. And then Frank I shows up to read Harlan's will. And it turns out Harlan left the entire estate and the publishing deal in the publishing business and the house to Marta.
Yep. Now, I don't know if it was before this point or after this point, but we do get a bit of a flashback.
Right. So
to the night where it happened.
Right. This is actually in Marta's testimony. Before she gives it, she goes back through the night of what happened.
Yes. And so during the night beforehand, she and Harlan were talking with each other, hanging out. He seemed to be very genuinely, like, he was essentially very genuinely good to Marta.
Mm-hmm. They played a game of Go. They goofed off.
Yeah.
He does this little bit where he's like, up, I'm okay, when he's climbing up the stairs. And then when he stops, he still says that. And I'm like, that's something I would do. I would just make up a song and keep repeating it.
Exactly. I genuinely, for as little we get of Harlan, I genuinely love him.
Mm-hmm.
But during his medication, when she gives him his medication, she notices on the bottle what she gave him was morphine. And she gave him like she's supposed to give him a little morphine and a lot of another drug. But she accidentally gave him a lot of morphine, which is, if you don't know, fatal.
Mm-hmm.
And so she's, immediately like, oh my god, we have to call the doctor. Like, you could die any moment. And he essentially says, and like, this is really bad because, she might have just accidentally killed him. And so he's like, he being like a murder mystery writer is like, no, don't worry. I know exactly how to solve this. And so he instructs her, like, what to do exactly, where it's like go downstairs dressed as him to like
throw off the time of death.
Yeah.
Or it's specifically, here's the play-by-play. For one thing, I want to bring up, it's really funny. They kind of lampshade or add like a red herring to the mix, implying that Marta could have done it like on purpose, because she says like, it'll kill you in 5 minutes, and then she's like, oh, I'll look for my safety kit. And Harlan's like, ooh, I should write this down. This is a good idea. Let's see. It kills in 5 minutes. If it was in a secluded place like a mansion on a hill, it would take longer than that for the ambulance to arrive. And then he was like, oh, well, it would especially be lethal if the nurse somehow forgot her emergency overdose kit. And then Marta's like, I lost it. I'm going to call the ambulance. And by that point, Harlan says like, no, it's okay.
Yeah, it's oh god, it's Again, Harlan is a gem.
So here's what happens. She leaves and makes a big deal about how she's leaving to establish when she left.
Yeah.
She says, like, bye, Walt. Oh my god, it's 10:30 or whatever.
Yeah.
She drives her car down the road and parks after the part where the security camera would have a blind spot. However, she messes up and parks before it. There's a bit where she's trying to remember it, and so you hear Christopher Plummer go, like, before the white elephant. Is it after or is it before? After the white elephant. Be after 4.
Yeah.
Then she returns, she climbs up the lattice outside the house because there is a trick window on the top floor that it doesn't look like a real window from the inside, but it's actually like a doorway blocking a real window. She climbs in, she goes up to his study, takes some of his clothes, then goes downstairs dressed as him.
And I think Walt is the one who, like, looks over his shoulder and is like, Harlan, go back to bed.
Yeah, no midnight snack.
Yeah.
And then after that, she leaves the same way that she entered, back through the lattice, and then runs off.
Yes. Other bits of detail is that his mother, who is still alive, who's like 100 something, she actually sees Marta when she climbs down, and she's like, "Oh, Ransom, you're back."
Ransom, is that you again?
Yeah. Ransom being a cousin,
Ransom is, I believe,
or a grandson.
He is Donna. Or no, he's Richard and Linda's son.
Yes, he shows up a little bit later, but after this, then she runs off, goes home, and in the scene where she goes home, I think this happens after she is interviewed. By the way, when she gives the interview, he literally, Harlan coached her what to say, so it would basically be all half-truths.
Yeah.
It would be like a literal retelling that just doesn't tell the whole story. So it wouldn't trigger her gag reflex. But when she gets home that night, we see a like deep close-up on her shoe that shows just a little speck of blood. Mm-hmm. Like just that little bit of evidence.
Yeah. Yeah, she that whole happens during her testimony, so we know what happened and how he died.
Yes.
So you're like, what's gonna happen now? So I forgot that also before the will reading, she assists Benoit Blanc in the investigation around the manor.
Yes.
This includes such hits as she follows them around the estate outside. There is a gate leading up to the house from the woods through like a fence, and there's a ton of mud there because it recently rained, and she intentionally messes up the tracks to make sure it doesn't show her footsteps in the mud.
Yep.
There are 2 dogs on the property, and they like most people. The only person they're showed to dislike is Ransom. And during the testimony, it's also worth noting that Linda woke up 3 times.
Yeah.
There was 2 times where somebody used the stairs, and then 1 time it was to the dogs.
Yeah.
So there's a bit where Marta is like, after she leaves the muddy footprints, and, you know, all the investigators are moving on, one of the dogs comes up to her, and it shows a snapped off piece of the lattice that it was holding in its mouth, like a stick.
Yeah.
So she throws it away. They go to the security guard, who is also very old and has just, like, boxes of old computer parts in it.
Yeah.
He's talking about modern security, and it's just, like, CCTV with VCRs. So, of course, Marta can use, like, a magnet to wipe the film.
Yes, because we see then that she did not actually park correctly.
Yeah.
Or drive it correctly.
I like this bit of, like, it's kind of contrived to have a VCR just so you can wipe the evidence.
Yeah.
So he just lampshade it by making it like it's an old security guard, it's an old guy who owns the mansion. They wouldn't invest in new technology.
It's a really fun bit to have, like, it seems like Rian Johnson came up with this idea, because I think he came up with it in like 2007, according to, like, he sort of wrote the first spec script according to Wikipedia. And so, like, I think he wrote it when VCRs were, like, slightly more of a thing. Mm-hmm. But, like, obviously in the digital age, that wouldn't be a thing. And so instead, he just kind of makes a joke out of it.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, I think around that time, they're leaving the security booth. And then Benoit finds one of the broken lattice pieces because a dog brings it up to him. Because the dog's like Benoit Blanc.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, where is this from? And he finds the lattice, he finds the secret window, they go to the top floor, they find mud tracks on the rug outside that window that would have matched the mud outside the house. And at this point, Marta's like, oh, I'm screwed.
Yeah.
So then it gets to the will reading. And then everything's left to Marta.
Yep. And after everything is left to Marta, everyone turns to her, and they basically all start hounding her.
Yeah. One of the improv lines is here, Walt calls her like an anchor baby.
What the fuck?
Yeah, and that was a line that Michael Shannon made up on the spot, and it almost got cut because he was, like, inaudible, so they ADR'd it afterwards, because Ryan Johnson thought it was so good.
So this is something I noticed after watching a YouTube video over it. I think Maggie Mayfish made a video over this that I might accidentally steal some things from. I will credit this one, which is that when Marta is leaving, like, as a means of showing, like, all of the chaos, there's a moment where, like, it does the dolly pan, and she gets out, and as the family comes up to hound her, literally the camera gets picked up off of the thing, and, like, it's this really obvious active motion that is, like, as a director, the cockiest fucking thing ever.
Yeah, it goes from steady cam to shaky cam, and then once she finally gets in her car, where she can't hear them as much, it goes back to steady cam.
Yeah.
At this point, you're introduced to Ransom, who is a cocky, rich asshole. He is specifically, Ryan Johnson told the costume designer to make it look like he has rich clothes that he does not care about treating well.
Yeah.
Which I love. He's eating these, like, butter cookies, and apparently they had to stop doing takes of that scene at some point because Chris Evans got so sick of eating those cookies.
That's
It's
fair.
like, I'm eating too many cookies, guys, come on.
Also, I think during the scene, it is specifically Ransom who, like, drives up and, like, opens the door to Marta and is like, hey, get in, I'll save you.
Yeah, Ransom then takes Marta to a, like, like a small restaurant. They sell, like, chowder. It's like something that would be in a like a Stephen King movie.
Yeah.
Or Stephen King book, I mean. You know, it's like New England-y.
Yeah.
And he hands Marta a bowl of chowder. He's like, okay, man, that sucks what they're all doing to you, but I understand. There was this speech that Richard gave Ransom of, like, you know, we need to cut you off so you can find out how to live for yourself and all that.
Yeah.
And then after the will reading and all the people are so angry, Ransom says the same thing back, and Walt's just like, what did he mean by that?
Yeah.
But so after she eats the chowder, Ransom hands her another empty bowl and says, all right, you're going to tell me everything that happened.
Yeah.
So Ransom's, like, the only one who knows about this plot now. And he's like, well, you know, the problem is that, you know, he goes over, like, the plan and all that, and he's like, well, they have the blood toxicology reports, so if they get those from the autopsy, they'll know that he actually ingested a ton of morphine, and so the throat won't matter, the cut won't matter.
Yeah.
And so they leave there. Marta goes home, she wakes up, the news is all over her. She leaves her apartment room into, like, the hallway and sees Walt. And this scene is so good. It's like Walt is, like, slowly approaching her, like, hey, come on, you need to give us back the money. Come on, it's the right thing to do. You're gonna give us back the money, right? And his cane is, like, loudly reverberating through the hallway. It's dark. There's only a dim lighting of, like, a halogen bulb. It's so tense. You can
staging.
You can feel the threat to her.
I think he very specifically threatens, like, hey, you know, if you don't give us back the money, like, he doesn't say it actively, but it's like, you know, your mother is, you know, you're legal, obviously. You're legally, you know, here, but, like, your mother isn't. And so, like, you know, it would be a shame if someone were to report her.
Yeah, he's like, but with our team of lawyers and our assets, we could protect her. And then Marta's like, well, they're my lawyers and assets now.
Yeah.
Which means I'll be okay. Thanks for the advice.
Yeah, which is very good.
Very good. She meets up with Ransom, and Ransom is living in, like, the house from Heavy Rain.
Yeah, God.
And Ransom's like, well, we got to get those toxicology reports. So she drives with him over to the morgue, and they find that it's burnt down. There they come eye to eye with Wagner and Benoit Blanc, proceed to the worst chase scene in movie history. It's so funny. It's just like an intentionally bad chase scene.
It's really good.
They get a report that Fran sent that says I know what you did or something, and she has the toxicology report.
Yeah.
So
Fran being the housekeep at the very beginning who
also smokes weed.
Yes.
One of the cooler characters.
Yes. She's I think she's the only character, and this is possibly inaccurate, but she's the only character that is 100 on Marta's side as well, because she also worked with Marta. Yeah. The other character who's on her side, Meg, at one point calls her, I think she's with Ransom at that point, and is like, hey, she calls and is like, my mom said, we don't have money. I don't have a college fund. And Marta basically responds with it's okay, don't worry, I'll take care of you. Nothing bad will happen. And she ends up hanging up, and that's when we see that the call was not private, it was something the entire family was in on.
Yeah, I feel really bad for Meg throughout the movie. She seems to genuinely care a lot about Marta, but the rest of the family is pressuring her into using that to manipulate Marta. I think that essentially Meg is a character who is cool and is a leftist. She's going to college for a leftist degree. Her SJW degree, as Richard calls it.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah.
But the theme, I'm fairly certain, is essentially the green is the most important money. It's yes, this is a family that is heavily divided, that they go from a range of the alt-right shithead kid to typical white lib shit to leftist soon to be bound for college, but once their fortune gets threatened, it brings the entire family together, because guess what, that's what all of them really care about at their core.
I want to expand on that in a bit. I want to finish the plot summary, though, because we're almost at the end. So after the bad chase scene, Benoit catches up to Marta, and they're talking a lot, and I think at this point they're just going back to the manor.
I think they get to Fran first.
Right, yeah, I forgot. I didn't fully explain that. Marta sees Fran in a laundromat, and Fran is dead.
Yeah.
And she says something that's, I know what you did, or something like that. And Marta finds that the toxicology reports are not there. They're not in the laundromat with Fran.
Yes.
So she leaves.
And then I think it is the scene where they go back, and Benoit Blanc takes her back, basically.
Yeah, that's when he gives his famous donut hole monologue, which is really good. And part of what I think made people fall in love with him.
Yes.
It's this long rambling thing that only kind of makes sense.
Which is a character trait that they go on into the sequel, but again, we're not going to talk about the sequel.
Yeah. They make their way back to the manor. Marta has now pretty much come clean to Benoit Blanc. And when she is about to come clean to the rest of the family, by the way, they tried to find a loophole into getting all the money back. There's a bit where they're Googling different law terms.
Yeah.
And they're talking to Frank Oz, who's the guy who, read the estate. And he's this is an airtight will that was overseen by lawyers and said in sound health. We all verified that.
Yeah.
You can't change it because you don't like it. And they find that if the person who it was entitled to killed him, then they wouldn't get the will would be, revoked or overturned.
Yeah. The Slayer rule.
Yeah. So Marta's about to come clean to them, and Blanc, stops her from doing that. He instead gives this scathing speech to the family. This is where he drops the title of Knives Out.
Yeah.
They're all hungry beasts, knives out at the feast, ready to eat, ready to pounce. So they pull Ransom aside into the other room, and this is one of my favorite parts. Blanc reveals what had been bothering him. is that Ransom's presence was unknown through most of the night, but there were little bits and pieces that hinted that he was there also.
Oh, spoilers, by the way.
Yeah. We're getting into the end of the movie. So there's actually multiple how this happens and multiple who's that done it in this movie.
Yes.
In this case, Ransom had left the house after getting to an argument where he learned that the will was going to cut out everybody except Marta. He then went back. He angered the dogs, which is why Linda heard the dogs again. He saw Nana again, which is why the grandma had said, Ransom, you're back again.
Yes.
And then he had switched the vials of morphine and the other liquid.
Yeah, he like peels off the label on one and then puts it on the other, and like he steals the like emergency thing too.
Yeah. So what this means is that the toxicology report would reveal that Harlan did not have morphine in his system to the degree that Marta was worried about.
Yes. Specifically, one, the toxicology report is hidden in like this hidden compartment where Fran kept her weed. And that's like what he finds that makes him go like, oh shit, I just realized what the case is. And two, there's a scene very early. There's a scene during the actual like scene where Marta is giving Harlan his medicine, where she like drops the vials and then picks them up, and it turns out she had actually given the correct doses because she could tell like instinctively by the viscosity, and so she thought she had given him morphine, but in fact she gave him the correct amounts of things, and so there's kind of a terrible tragedy where like. It turns out that, yes, if he had just waited for the ambulance, he would have been fine.
Yeah. Then there's a bit where Marta seemingly gets a call saying that Fran is alive, and so she would be able to, verify that Ransom tried to kill her. Because Ransom's first name is actually Hugh, and so Fran was saying Hugh did this.
Yeah.
This is when Ransom decides to take one of the knives off the throne of knives.
Not just yet, actually. Not
Really?
just yet. So she gets the call, and Marta's like, oh my god, she's alive. She can testify.
Yeah.
And so Ransom is really fucking pissed, and he's like, alright, fine, yeah, I did do it. But you know what? Fuck it. I think, like, he confesses, and I think that there's, like, something that he says that's like, well, it doesn't even fucking matter that I did it because of XYZ. And then Marta throws up in his face.
Yeah, vomit blast.
Yeah, Chekhov's vomit paying off. Because it turns out, no, Fran fucking died and she fucking lied.
But she got a confession out of Ransom that way.
Exactly.
And then Ransom's like, well, nowhere to go but down. Like, he can't escape from this now, so you might as well add another murder charge.
Yeah, in for a penny. And so he grabs one of the knives off of the big, giant menagerie of knives, and he grabs Marta, stabs into her, they're both on the ground, and then it's like, they both pause, and he, like, retracts the knife, and it's a fake knife, it's a prop knife.
Yes! So, this is something that Harlan says early on. Harlan, in his final moments, gives a speech about the family and sort of his relation to them. There's two big notes. One of them is he says, like, they get so caught up that they can't tell a real knife from a fake knife.
Yes.
They can't tell a stage knife from the real thing. This literally happens with Ransom. He is so uninvested in the, details of the family. He's just invested in the material wealth of the family that he doesn't stop to consider that the knives on the big circle of knife are fake.
Yeah.
Also, I believe during this point, Ransom is much more in frame of the circle of knives.
Yes.
Either Ransom or Marta. One of them is, directly in the center.
Again, very good framing, very good directorial work.
Yeah. The other one I want to mention, because we pretty much reached the end of the plot, it just ends with the family being kicked out. Linda dumps Richard because she finds the hidden message.
Meg does actually apologize, which is a little detail that I like.
And then Marta stands on the balcony holding a cup of coffee that says, "My coffee, my house, my rules."
Yes, which is so good.
So, the other key thing is Go is brought up multiple times. And this stood out to me because you actually see their game of Go. It's just like a 9x9, which is a small, more beginner-friendly game. Not the full-size Go board. But
it's actually like accurate. It looks like they're playing Go. As someone who's not a great Go player but knows what Go looks like it's one of those games that a lot of people will put in a like story to make it seem more, I don't know, multicultural, but a lot of people don't understand how to actually play it.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like if you just kind of randomly scattered a bunch of chess pieces.
Mm-hmm. But here's the thing about it, is that not only does it look like a real game of Go, the actual philosophy of playing Go is central to the themes of the movie. So the only person who can beat Harlan at Go is Marta. When they're talking about it over the game, Marta says it's because she's not trying to win, she's trying to make a beautiful shape. Shape is actually a common term in Go lingo, meaning, so essentially the way to win Go is to surround territory, not to kill the opponent. And specifically, killing the opponent is often not a great idea, or at least attacking the opponent, because just due to the rules, usually the person defending has more control over the fight early on than the attacker, unless you have a lot of other stones nearby that you can sort of play towards. This is, again, very vague overview in vague terms. But instead, the goal is often to create sort of a structure around like the corners and the edges of the board, and then connect the dots so that you've roped off your own area. And whoever has the most area wins. So Marta is saying that her strategy is not to be aggressive, it is to play passively and focus on making large, shapes. Shapes in Go terminology is like a solid structure that can often be defended quite easily, it's hard to attack, and it leads to a solid amount of points.
Yeah.
So the rest of the family has played Go against Harlan, including Ransom, but none of them have beaten Harlan except Marta, because they are too focused on the aggression of Go. Now, it could also be said, not only is this showing Marta's difference in personality, she is not an aggro, I want everything greedy person, because greed and Go will get you killed.
Yeah.
It also shows how Americentric the rest of the family is.
Yeah!
Go is specifically an East Asian game from like China, Japan, and Korea. It is not an American game, and so the fact that the people who are the most invested in other people, other cultures, are the people who are good at it, is, I think, what really makes it such an effective symbol.
Yeah. Then speaking of other cultures as well, is like the constant presence and theme of Marta being an immigrant.
Yes.
Marta being an immigrant being like this tool that the family uses, and this sort of like this constant sort of Damocles over her head as a form of like the family trying to control her and trying to like claim some kind of, legitimacy through her rather than seeing her as a real person.
Yes, exactly. So another fun joke sort of is that every family member approaches Marta saying that they wanted her to be at the funeral, but they were outvoted. Like, yeah. Richard says this, Walt says this, Joni says this. And so it's like, oh wait, none of them wanted her at the funeral. They just are trying to pretend like that. And that's sort of a reoccurring motif with the characters, a reoccurring occurrence, is that they are looking more for brownie points or for image rather than actual, like, trying to be decent people. I think this is where, so I don't think there's as much of a divide in the family as you say, because I think really the only person who ascribes to treating Marta as like a decent person other than Harlan is Meg.
Yes.
Joni, Meg's mom, is really appropriative.
Yes.
Like, yes. She does like chanting and stuff during yoga. Yoga's one thing, but like chanting during yoga, I feel like is another thing. And her health business is very like Orientalist.
Yes. So like how Rian Johnson is very in tune with the alt-right, I think he's also very in tune with like white liberalhood. Mm-hmm. And I use that in the sense of like being, the like American sort of middle class idea of a leftist, and in the literal sense of, actual liberalism, because like besides the hard right of the 13-year-old Ben Shapiro and the hard left of Meg, they're mostly like that sort of quote-unquote well-meaning left of center, like, but still very heavily center. Like, I know that there is obviously not Walt, what's his name?
Richard.
Yeah, there's obviously Richard, who's like, yeah, she's one of the good immigrants.
Well, also, there's a scene that literally opens with them talking about Trump.
Oh, yeah,
They
that's
talk
right.
about Richard having a red hat,
Yeah.
and he's very defensive over it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like they're all, you know, within that like menagerie of the center, but like
Mostly to the right.
yeah, mostly to the right, and like even the ones like you said, even Meg's mother, like who is the next hardest left, is really only that like that upper class white version of the left that, like you said, is extremely appropriative and is very, you know, the like new age version of like, you know, oh, spiritual, and, you know, oh, take these, you know, like foods that we discovered, not that people have been eating for decades and centuries even.
And I think it's interesting that the rest of the family calls Meg an SJW and all that, when in the movie, the only thing she does is nice to Marta and smokes the big weed.
Yes, yeah.
Like, she doesn't talk about, like, gender theory or ACAB or anything, you know?
Yeah. And, like, it is 2019. Like, those were conversations that were actively happening, you know? Mm-hmm. Like, even if this was shot in 2018, like, she should be talking about these things, essentially.
Yeah.
A big recurring theme is sort of like the thin veneer of well-meaning leftism, or like, you know, I'm just asking questions center-rightism, being completely shattered by money.
Yeah.
Like the one thing that can unify any people, no matter their quote-unquote political beliefs that they definitely truly believe, is the idea that somebody who is used to having a lot of money suddenly is about to not have money.
It's that it's actually about class the whole time.
Of course.
They view Marta as being lower than them, and so as long as she stays in that status, they're happy. But once she gains status like that, they vilify her. They hate her now.
Yes.
And like you said, it brings them together not because of political ideology, but purely because their class status is threatened.
Yeah. I will say my own personal theory is that I believe Meg redeems herself and is a good friend to Marta in the end. Mm-hmm. We do have a hard cutoff that, you know, like ends it before we obviously see anything like that, but she apologizes at the end, and I choose to believe that she sees the error of her ways.
Yeah, I think Meg was just pressured into calling Marta at that point. Like, she does say the bit about the university, but after that there's a break, and then she's like, I think you should give the money back to us.
Yeah.
But, like, you know, with the reveal that the family was entirely around her, I think the actress playing her does a really good job at portraying her emotions as being very torn about this.
Yes, that is true. That is true.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That part's great. I also, so there's a ton of small details in this movie that we didn't even mention.
Can I talk about my favorite little subplot that's almost entirely in the background?
Mm-hmm.
And you probably are going to also mention this. It's when Richard. It's the Richard subplot, basically. Mm-hmm. So Richard goes into Harlan's office and is like trying to find. He finds the letter that Richard was going to like show to Jody, and he opens it up and it's blank. And he's like, well, fucking great. And he like throws it away. He picks up a tennis ball and he like chucks it out the window. We see a dog run off. In a later scene, I think we see the dog like running around with the tennis ball in its mouth. Is very cute. Mm-hmm. And then near the end, the dog goes up to Jody and hands her and like, you know, she grabs the ball and she's like, oh, I know where this goes.
Goes to Linda.
Or goes to Linda, yes. And so she takes the ball, brings it back to his study, and she notices the letter, which she, because she obviously had a game with Harlan, knows is a letter that like is, you know, written in invisible ink. And so she then like takes her lighter and like, you know, finds the actual text, which is like it's so many great layers on top of each other. It is like a perfect like hoist by your own petard, where it's like, you know, he tosses the ball that, and eventually Linda ends up bringing back, and so entirely undone by his own actions. It's the fact that like he doesn't really care about his wife because he never really bothered to learn how his wife had a relationship with her father. I think it's also honestly just like a really sweet moment that shows that Jodie did genuinely still love her father. Like
Joni is,
or not Jodie.
sorry, yeah,
Linda.
Linda is interesting because like she's not as vocal as the other family members. She is still vocal. She does ask, "Are you doinking my father?"
Yeah.
But I feel like she does some of the least offensive things in the movie.
Yeah.
As far as the adults of or just the Thromby family in general.
Yeah. I believe her to have like a strained but genuine relationship with Harlan. And like it is very sweet, honestly.
Yeah.
But like that's also sort of like just a great example of like the little background details that you can notice. Oh, one last thing also before I turn it over to you to talk about more. At the very end, Blanc is like, you know, I did suspect you from the beginning. And Marta's like, how could you tell? And he points out the speck of blood on her shoes, showing that while that was a reveal to the audience, that was not a reveal to Blanc. Which is really good and classic sort of murder mystery set piecing.
Yeah. So one thing I wanted to say is there is a Hamilton reference early on. When Richard is talking about Marta, he says like immigrants, they get the job done.
Yeah.
And he points at the white trooper who he just, I guess, assumes is gay and into musical theater.
Yeah.
He is into musical theater, as he says. He's like, oh, Hamilton, yeah. But so for one thing, Richard says he saw it at like a theater that's very rich and fancy historically, like only for upper class people. Also, the fact that it's Hamilton is really interesting because that's a play that is sort of accused of like cool washing the founding fathers.
Yes.
Of making them hip when they were assholes, you know?
Yeah, it's Hamilton has gotten sort of discoursed and rediscoursed, and
no hate to Lin-Manuel.
Yeah, no hate to Lin-Manuel. I'm told by online leftists that I shouldn't like him, and I just don't care.
It's just telling that the play that really blew up for him is the one that makes it the one that's about founding fathers and makes it hip to like founding fathers.
Yeah, it's the one that plays sort of most to the establishment is the one that like was quite kind of picked up and like hailed,
paraded maybe
paraded as like this sort of like big progressive message about how we're a nation of immigrants, when in reality, like, America loves that shit.
Yeah,
like it was only sort of really it was only really quote unquote progressive in the Trump era.
Yeah,
but like,
and in regards to casting,
and also in regards to casting, yeah. Again, no shade to Miranda, yeah. Mr. Miranda.
But that's a really interesting decision there. I love the bit where Benoit talks about Gravity's Rainbow, and he's like, and Marta's like, I haven't read it before, and he's like, nobody has.
Yeah,
which I love. That's very true. It's a Wikipedia book.
Bookipedia.
It's when you look up the summary on Wikipedia, you learn a bit about the writing of it, and you're like, okay, that's good.
It's a Kilgore Trout novel.
Yeah, essentially. I love that in Harlan's office, when he talks to Richard, you can see behind him there are these just two prop eyeballs staring directly at you. Just like they know, they have seen shit.
Yeah.
One of my favorite little subplot bits is the Nana, the grandma.
Yes.
Harlan's mother. So she's very quiet the whole time. Nobody can really get a response out of her. However, there's a bit where Benoit goes to talk to her, and it's really sweet. She doesn't say anything, so Benoit's like, you know what? If you don't want to say anything, that's fine. I'll just sit here and wait. And then later, it's revealed that he did get a response out of her.
Yeah.
So just by being a like nice, patient person, not yelling at her, not being impatient, he was able to endear himself to Nana, which gave him an extra clue about Ransom's whereabouts that night.
Yeah, I like it's it's really good, and it's really in theme with like just sort of the people who are sort of genuine people to others being the ones that actually get like results.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of other like small things going on. There's a bit where Marta is kind of trying to hide away. She's sitting by a stained glass window. The window depicts Harlan, or depicts like a scene of people at a table with another window, and Harlan looks through that. No, not Harlan. Sorry, Benoit looks through that window, and so there's this fun bit of like recursion going on.
Yeah.
There's a few other bits like that. One of them is there's a dollhouse that I believe is supposed to be. It might not be the Thromby estate. I think it's a dollhouse that was like relevant to one of the books that Harlan wrote, because it's implied most of the decorations are memorabilia relating to those books.
Makes sense.
Like the elephant is from a book about animals. Part of why I wanted to mention that though is because the names in this book or the names in this movie are very intentional. A lot of them are references to mystery novels or authors, like Harlan Thrombey, Harlan Ellison?
Harlan Ellison sounds more correct, but I would not know.
Technically sci-fi, but you know. But Benoit Blanc, Benoit Mandelbrot, studied fractals.
Yep.
The donut with a hole that itself is another donut with another donut hole is a fractal.
It's actually very good. I did not catch that.
Yeah, I only caught that in my most recent watch through, and I've watched this like 5 or 6 times. There's a lot of tiny details like that I love. There's in the bit where Richard calls over Marta, he also like holds up a plate as if expecting her to take it and like wash it or something.
Yeah.
Just to further show that, you know, they don't respect her. And I believe that was improv'd by Don Johnson.
Which is, yeah, very good.
One thing I love about this is it is a mystery set in a house written by created by a mystery writer with all these weird things in it that are from mystery novels. The movie is a huge tribute to the mystery genre. There are allusions to a lot of other different books and stories. Like, when they talk about Benoit Blanc, I think Joni says, like, I recognize you. You solved that case with the tennis player. And that's apparently a reference to a classic mystery novel. There's just, like, a lot of little details like that. That's really, really fun and shows how much Rian Johnson likes mysteries as a whole.
Yes. That was something I wanted to bring up, is, like, even beyond, like, even beyond a lot of the you know themes you can read into it, this is just a really good mystery movie. Like, yeah. This is a really good mystery thriller.
I love the guts of like explaining how it happened in the first or the second act.
Yeah.
And then it turns out there was more to the story.
Yeah. Like the fact that it starts off just telling you the mystery basically is like so good.
There are like no loose threads, except for like the unreliable narrator testimonies, which are there because they're unreliable. Otherwise, it's airtight. I also wanted to just say, the mansion, very much like a Clue mansion, which I love. It's very great. That's expanded later in the sequel as well, just the connection to Clue. Not going to talk about it now.
Yeah,
maybe in the future, maybe next year we will.
Yeah, we'll have to make a theme month, Knifeuary.
Or just a Squeakquel month.
Yes. Squeakquel-sember.
Yeah. I've found that a lot of mystery writers love writing about writing mysteries. Like, I brought this up to you before just in person, but in like the most recent Haruhi Suzumiya novel, which came out a year or two ago after a long hiatus, the author just has like 2 chapters that are all about, isn't it interesting how mysteries are written? Like, it talks about the promise that the characters presented in the first act are the only ones that are suspects. There won't be a surprise suspect. And then like there is another chapter that then plays off all of those tropes. And then in the Zero Escape trilogy, there's a lot of little bits of like here's the rules of how to write a mystery, and then the characters go in and break them. Like, the
Yes.
writer intentionally breaks every rule of writing a mystery, and this feels the same way.
Yeah. Like, it's really... like, it's really fun because, like, it sets up the whole, this is a mystery writer that, like, is extremely famous for this, and then, it then immediately subverts it, and then it subverts it again, so where it's like, again, one of the first things you should do as a mystery writer is probably not tell you just what fucking happens, like, right off. Really niche critique here. In a lot of fun copper procedurals like Psych or Monk, there was a good period where I was always really fucking annoyed. Like a couple seasons of Psych and a couple seasons of Monk, great shows, where like they would just show you the person who. They would just show you. They would just show you the suspect who did it at the very beginning. They would just show you the actual murder happening. And it was I always hated it because, like, a lot of times they didn't then do a lot of interesting things. They just, like, the camera guy murders him and then tries to pin it on the fucking butler, and then it's like, oh, they subverted that, and yeah, it wasn't the butler, it was the guy we saw murder him.
The only thing that does that well, other than this, of course, is Phoenix Wright. Because in Phoenix Wright, the puzzle isn't about who did it or how they did it, but how you can pin the crime on them.
Yes.
It's about connecting the evidence in a court of law, which is much different than just trying to figure out who did it.
Yes. I accept this. This is a very good take.
Yes. So I have one more important point about this movie's writing and about the themes of the movie that I almost forgot about, but I'm really glad I didn't.
Yes.
So there's this really interesting thing that happens in this movie where Benoit Blanc does very little.
Yeah?
Hear me out. So he finds the mud stuff, but the dog brought him the lattice, which showed him where the window was, and Marta's the one who ultimately shows him where the window is. Marta has a lot of agency, though. She is the one who pulled off the plan in the first place that almost worked if it wasn't for a tiny speck of mud and a tiny drop of blood. Rhymes. But also, like, she thinks quickly to mess up the footprints in the mud. She thinks quickly to remove the evidence on the security tape.
Yeah.
She has that run-in with Walt where she's like, well, those are my resources now.
Yeah.
She is the one who drives during the chase sequence, which is really funny. Yeah, and ultimately she comes up with the lie that finally pins the blame on Ransom.
Yeah.
Marta has a lot of agency. She's not just the assistant. She does a lot of the legwork and is finally the one who makes, like, the snap decisions. And I love that. For a movie that is about how, white people treat immigrants unfairly, it would be really bad if Benoit Blanc did all the heavy lifting and left Marta to essentially be a damsel that he had to save.
It would be very easy for this movie to have been, like, basically a white savior tale.
Exactly.
But, like, honestly, I feel like there's a little bit of deconstruction in that, like, a little bit of deconstruction in sort of, like, the like, really high-minded genius detective, where it's like, he is a good detective, ultimately. Like, he genuinely just is. Also, side note, one little plot thing I just realized we didn't mention. Harlan was anonymously hired by Ransom to catch Martha.
Benoit.
Or Benoit.
I made the same mistake.
Whoops.
Benoit was hired anonymously by Ransom.
Yes. But, yeah, like, because, like, think of a lot of the archetype of that is, like, they're a genius who knows everything. They're almost always, like, a massive fucking asshole, too. It's your Sherlock Holmes, your other examples.
Well, at least your Cumberbatch Sherlock Holmes.
Your Cumberbatch.
I haven't read the originals.
Your Robert Downey Jr. Sherlock Holmes as well.
Honestly, a lot of Sherlock Holmes. Maybe I should read the originals and see if he is an asshole.
They're about to go public domain next year.
Woo!
But, like, yeah, so it's this really, like, good... He's already public domain. I think the last book is going public domain. Anyway, it's this really good subversion where it's like, Benoit Blanc is, again, good detective, but like he's really nice. He's really personable. He knows to listen to people.
He's much closer to like Hercule Poirot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to say yes, because I don't know who that is.
Okay. It's the gentleman detective.
Okay, yes. Yes.
He is endearing, and his belief in the truth is founded on a greater belief in humanity and, like, right.
Yes. I want to bring up, without spoiling anything about the sequel, I want to bring up that one of my favorite things about the sequel is essentially that he sort of implicitly acknowledges the failures of the system and the limits that it has, and then equally implicitly sort of not exactly, but definitely does tell his person, like his cohort, to smash the system.
Yeah, he says like he'll turn a blind eye to it, essentially.
Yeah, it's like he knows that the limits that the system has when it comes to justice, but he is then equally willing to sort of let justice actually find itself. But again, that's a story for another episode.
Blanc is a catalyst for these people to find justice.
Yeah.
Much more than himself being a person whose goal is to find justice and that's it.
Yeah, it's really, really, really well written character. I'm really excited that we got a sequel and are apparently going to get a third movie.
Yeah, they've greenlit 2, and we just got the first of those 2.
Yeah. Benoit Blanc, really, really good. Really good character. Marta is so funky fresh. I love her.
Great protagonist.
Yeah, fucking excellent protagonist. This is, again, really, really good movie. Excellent staging, excellent direction. Top movie of all time.
Sequel's also really good. I don't know if it's just recency bias, though. I'm not sure which one I like more. But for what it's worth, when the sequel is out on Netflix, big recommend to that too.
Absolutely. It is completely disconnected, and it also soft implies that Benoit is gay or maybe bisexual.
Implies that he has a husband.
Yeah, implies that he has a husband or at least a male
What
partner.
that says about his sexuality, you know.
Yeah, sexuality is fluid, and putting labels on things are for people to do for themselves.
And again, it's an Among Us reference. The entire thing's an Among Us joke. Ryan Johnson, you've done me dirty for the first and last time.
Ryan Johnson, I'm making a call. This is going to be my 8-hour YouTube video. Calling Ryan Johnson a terrible person for making an Among Us movie.
No, Ryan Johnson, you're the third person we're going to invite onto this podcast after Kikiyama and I want to say Alluvium?
Alluvium.
The Valle Verde guy.
Yes.
So, get in line, I suppose.
Yeah.
You wanna come on and talk about fun mystery novels like the last novel in the Haruhi Suzumiya series?
I would read it if we could get Ryan Johnson. I would read Haruhi Suzumiya.
I hope somebody out there is keeping track of our wish list of guests.
Yeah. God, I think that I remember saying specifically I don't want Bo Burnham. But I did want Banksy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's right.
We would love to get Banksy.
But not talk about any of Banksy's artwork.
Yeah, none of Banksy's artwork. We want to talk about Mark Echo's Getting Up.
Yes.
With Banksy. Banksy, if you're listening, and I know you are, play Mark Echo's Getting Up and get in touch with us.
Yes. Until then, you have been listening to Net Surfer Pro, or I don't need to say the rest of the tagline. We already said that at the start.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can follow us on Twitter at NetSurferPro, where I post, new episodes that go live, and I post teasers and clues and hints to, upcoming episodes. Of course, we have our end of the year Net Surfies pretty soon, because it's December. So keep an eye out for that. You can also follow us on any podcasting platform you like to get updates on when our new episodes come out right when they come out. You can also give us a rating, give us a review, leave us comments, let us know if there's anything you think we should check out and maybe do an episode on even.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can follow me on Twitter and Tumblr. On Twitter, I am at Twackaroo, Twakaroo. And on Tumblr, I am also Twackaroo. I post my takes, my choice voices, me complaining about Rivals of Aether Twitter, because Rivals players are on something. And on the Tumblr, you can also find my rundown of my top favorite games of all time, where I only have one so far. The second one should be out by the time this episode comes out, where I go through my list of favorite video games and write something about each of them. So check those out if you want. You can follow me on Twitch at twack, twitch.tv/twak. I stream during weekdays. I play competitive games, roguelites. I've been playing the La Mulana 2 randomizer, which is incredibly fun, and I'm probably going to do more runs once I'm done with this one. So check that out if that sounds interesting. And also on there, you will be able to see the Net Surfies Bracket Showdown.
Yes,
So,
I'm really excited for this.
So, if you're unfamiliar, for last year we did the Net Surfies, the first annual Net Surfies, which is our awards ceremony where we talk about the best things from the year, or at least our favorite things from the year. And we had enough nominees for some of the categories this time that we decided why not do a bracket stream where we'll go live and work through our decision-making process to find one winner. I believe the two categories we know for sure we have a bracket for are Indie Game of the Year and Meme of the Year.
Yes. I believe that Matthew is going to be slightly more leading the Indie Game of the Year, and I'm going to be slightly more leading the Memes of the Year.
Yes, because you've only played 3 games this year.
Yep, I've played Final Fantasy XIV and Deep Rock Galactic and very briefly Persona 5 Royal for Switch. I have been playing Disco Elysium, actually, so maybe look forward to that episode. But anyway, as for myself, the non-responsibility portion of this episode, you can find me on TikTok and on Twitter at Galen Wilson. That's at GALENWILS0N. I post my hot takes and sometimes videos of my cat. You can find me on Tumblr at tumblr.com/GalenWilson or galenwilson.tumblr.com. I don't know how the URLs work. You can find me on YouTube at The Only Galen on YouTube, where I'm thinking I might actually have some videos out by the end of the year. I want to make videos as, like, birthday presents for all my friends. I can say this on this podcast because none of them listen to it.
Except me.
Well, except you, but that obviously I'm not going to make a YouTube video for you. I'm going to have to make something different.
Aww.
And you can also find me on Twitch at Machine Gun Vampire. Machine Gun Vampire, where I've been trying to stream more and more. I'm thinking I might actually end up streaming some horror games so that I actually finally play things like Who's Lila?
Ooh.
But with that, that's all of my socials out of the way.
Lila D's nuts?
Lila D's nuts! Got him!
Oh, hey, hold on. I'm getting a message here from a J.M. Michaels.
Oh, J.M. Michaels.
Yeah. Oh, god damn it. So, apparently, we weren't transferred a gazillion dollars. We were wired his soul.
Oh! Dang it, right.
So, he doesn't own us for a gazillion dollars. We're significantly less rich, but we do own his soul.
I mean, we could probably sell that on the secondary market. I hear souls are going, the meta might update, though, so.
Yeah, that's like 3 Ethereum.
Yeah.
And that means I'd have to make an account, and I don't want to make a wallet for that.
Oh god, yeah.
The only wallet I keep is my personal wallet that has nothing in it as a joke.
The only wallet I keep is the wallets in my house.
True.